cat line this morning.
Maybe this termite mound that you can see is going to be a landmark that she could head towards. Leopard will often move from termite mound to termite mound and use them as vantage points on which they can survey their surroundings. If she does creep up over this termite mound, it'll be absolutely beautiful. They often get into full stalk mode and almost slither up the back of a mound, and we'll just get her eyes and ears poking up carefully, making sure she doesn't give herself away to anything that could be on the opposite side. Now, I'm hoping Aubrey hasn't lost her in this thick vegetation. There's a chance he has. But that's not a problem. I'm confident we'll find her. We've got a long stretch of straight road that I'm fairly confident we'll spot her on as she crosses, even if it's behind us. I'm searching in a 180-degree kind of vector in the general direction that she's been moving. Brian, did you get a glimpse of her as she crossed the road earlier? Or not? Okay. So it's both of us haven't seen her yet, but we know she's nearby. And like many scenarios we face out here, patience can be our best friend. And we will continue to be patient, and it is going to certainly be worth waiting for, I can assure you, when we do lay eyes on this female leopard with this perfect golden morning sunlight. We are going to be in for a treat. The bird you can hear calling is a very pretty bird, and I'm going to open this one up to the floor. Can anybody ID the bird that's calling? I'll imitate the call with a whistle just so that you're all sure of the same one. It's kind of my impression. It'll call again now. There you go. It's a very, very pretty bird with bright colors. That is the only clues I will give you. So send your answers to questions@wildearth.tv or hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter. And in the birding world, it is actually accepted to identify a bird. It counts as an identification, or a sighting, you could say, by simply identifying its call. You don't necessarily need to lock eyes on it. This is the long straight road that she could pop out onto. Have you still got a visual of her, Orbs?
Yeah, positive. Changing the direction, heading east again. On the ticket now.
Uh-oh.
But I still move.
Okay, copy, thank you. We'll still wait here. Well, if you didn't hear that message from Aubrey, I'll relay it to you, and it's not the best news we've heard all morning. She's changed direction, and from being so close to us, she is now heading in the opposite direction. But she could well just change direction again and keep coming. Her general direction of movement has been towards us. What would have caused her to change direction could be a number of many things. She could have smelt some prey, got the sense of another leopard, or simply just changed her mood. Well, apologies. I really was excited about the prospects of her popping up. And there still is a chance that she will. Like I say, her general movement has been consistently bringing her closer to this boundary road. And just at the last moment, she's veered off track. And the animals always do keep us guessing out here, and that's what makes it exciting and fun. And the good news is that Aubrey is still with her, and that is fundamental. So the fact that there is still somebody with her who can keep us updated on her movements is huge. But again, we're just going to have to put on our extra patience because we don't really have another option. Patience is our only option. While we stop and wait and listen, you'll notice that this termite mound has got almost a chimney-like structure. And that's exactly what it is. It helps to regulate the temperature inside this termite mound. And there's a hive of activity in there. There's basically a indoor farming system where the termites will farm a fungus which actually helps to break down their own feces. So they'll consume the dead plant matter, which is very hard to break down, and then deliver their droppings into a farming area, you could say, almost cultivated fields of fungus. And this fungus that grows on and breaks down their feces and their droppings is then fed on by them, so it allows them to feed twice on the same substance, but the fungus helps to break it down to a more digestible matter. Now, all the farming and all this digestion and breaking down and decomposing by the fungus creates a lot of energy and warmth, and this warmth can either be kept inside the termite mound by keeping that hole that you can see in the chimney closed, or they can open it up to let things cool down a bit inside there. And there can be millions and millions of termites within one mound. Basically a whole world of activity going on in there.
Every house is still facing northeast. Yeah, maybe she's gonna come back here, never mind, but she's still following the motive and experiment.
Okay, copy. Thanks, Orbs. Thanks very much for your help. Okay, folks, well, it sounds like she's following the trail of some steenbuck that she chased off, and we're not sure what she's going to do. It might be worth heading back over to see how Mark's coming along with his tracks and tracking. And I'm going to chat with Aubrey now. He's just right here and get a better idea of exactly what he thinks is going to happen. We'll catch up with you a bit later.
Well, that sounds like it was very frustrating. Karula almost there, but turning around and then heading in another direction is quite sad. I've been on the trail of one of her sons. At the moment I don't have tracks because it looks like he crossed into an area between Philemon's Cut Line and Zoe's Road and Rebecca's Road, which is quite a large area, so we can do a little bit of a loop around, and it might get us past the hyena den, so we might pop in there and have a look. But the only option that we have is to try and head up here and see if he comes out onto this road after he came up from Treehouse Dam. We followed his tracks all the way down to Treehouse Dam, and then from Treehouse Dam, so he sort of came down down the one road to Treehouse Dam and then almost did a 90-degree and went up the other road. Clearly stopping at the dam for a drink, no doubt, because of the angle of his trajectory, of his movement. And that'll bring him out somewhere maybe onto this road closer to the hyena den. So the only chance we have right now is to try and find his track coming out onto this road. And of course, see what else we can see along the way. You never know what there is. Welcome to our sunrise safari, a beautiful Monday morning. Starting to warm up a little bit, little patches of cloud, keeping the sun faint. But it is managing to warm things up a bit. Jim sent a tweet asking about leopards, or female leopards smaller than males, and by how much? Are we talking about leopards or the tracks? I didn't quite get it. Did you get it? Just the leopards now. Oh, just the leopards as an animal. Jim, up to half the weight, perhaps. So, Jim, let me try and think of a comparison. Female leopard versus a male leopard, size-wise. Well, males can be up to about 80 kilograms. I mean, very, very big males, maybe 90 kilograms. Female leopards are maybe 40 kilograms, so up to half the weight of a male leopard. Male leopard's bigger boned. They'll probably stand a good few inches taller and obviously a lot more robust than the females. What have we got here? Some tracks apart from buffalo. There are mostly just buffalo. Guarantee we're going to find the animal, even if it is here on Juma. I mean, it was impossible to follow the lion tracks because they moved off the property, but when you have lion or leopard tracks on the property, as much as it sounds fairly straightforward, it can get a bit difficult sometimes when they do leave the road. And that's like Karula right now is not really walking in a straight line. She's wandering around. And short of having to leave the vehicle and go walkabout, she tracks. Well, this is the road down to the hyena den, so naturally there are hyena tracks there. But if that cat's general direction was north, even though he was sort of zigzagging down to Treehouse Dam, it would more or less bring him out here near the hyena den. We'll have to go and check on Rebecca's road after we've been down here. I'm hoping that maybe they might be lying out in the sun warming up a bit, even though it is getting late in the morning for hyenas to be out. Yesterday, I don't think they were here because it was cold and windy, so they were probably... It doesn't look like there's any activity. Lots of hyena tracks. But nobody out.
Are you boys on the drive? Just come back in. We were actively gone and this way this morning. And now we're going to be heading out again soon.
They were active this morning. There are a lot of fresh tracks around, but quite clearly they've all gone back to bed right now. Back into the den. Let's get up towards Rebecca's road and see if we can find some sign of this catch. Otherwise we're going to have to go all the way back to the old hyena den. Asking if it's possible that since the lion have been quite present of late, could it be that that's why the leopard have been quite scarce? It's possible, Gail, especially since the lion have been quite vocal. Quite often you'll find that if the lion haven't been calling, much like now, I mean right now, the lion and the leopard were found in exactly the same place this morning. So it's not a scenario that you will always find. It might just be for now. I would expect that since these lions have been moving, in fact, there's a lot to be drawn from what we found this morning. The Kahuma Pride headed on to Gari Main, and they started going east generally, right up to sort of the northeastern part of their territory. At the same time, during the evening, there was a big male lion, and I'm guessing it's one of the Matimbas that must have come from the east, down Leadwood Road, and onto Gari Main, heading west, where he eventually went south. Now, Wiem and I were talking about this, and we were thinking, well, maybe he was calling, and the Kahumas were actually trying to avoid him, maybe because of the young male with the Kahumas, who knows. It might just be that none of them were calling and they actually managed to miss each other. And the fact that a leopard has come back now might also be because maybe they were calling and the leopard could hear that they were leaving, and so he's decided to come back where the lion aren't, and that maybe because they've been calling here on Juma, maybe that's why none of the boys quarantine or Kanyuma, why neither of them have been around. So while it might be the scenario now, it's not always the case. In fact, we've on occasion been with leopard when lions have been nearby, or we've had situations where we've had leopard in a tree and lions underneath. So it doesn't always work that way, but I would imagine that occasionally, and perhaps like now, this last few days, since the lion have been quite vocal here in Juma, it's quite possible that the leopard stayed away because of it. But then I want to bring back another incident that we had not so long ago, a couple of months ago. We had the two Matembas kill a buffalo just off of Philemon's cut line, Philemon's dip in the drainage line. And we had, I think it was Kanuma, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Quarantine, hanging around the lion kill. In fact, while they were eating, he was sitting and watching them above the drainage line, above the riverbed. Well, that in itself was unusual. He even managed to steal a little bit of the meat eventually. Got a little nibble out of that buffalo kill. We've also seen way in the past when these, I think it was the Nkuhumas, I think it was them, when they killed a buffalo and a calf just in front of Buetela Lodge. Induna was seen shortly afterwards coming to feed on that kill. Well, here are his tracks. And I'm guessing they're his tracks because it coincides with coming up from Treehouse Dam, and he's turned. I have to turn around because we're going to have to go back up Zoe's Road. He wasn't on the junction of Zoe's Road and Rebecca's Road, but here his tracks are coming up Rebecca's Road. And I'm pretty sure it's the same leopard. I know you can't quite see, but maybe you can. There you go. Perfect. Well, leopard tracks. So he would have actually walked right past where those lions were sleeping on yesterday. In fact, his tracks probably walk over where those lions were sleeping in the road. And somehow they must have avoided each other. Perhaps a time thing. The cats went that way around down to Gowrie Main. He came up a little bit west of them, and the timing must have been that when the cats were leaving, he was coming in. Whether they were vocal or not, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't have heard anything since I was staying up in Manyeleti. Oh, wait, just on the chassis. Just looking now quickly before I turn around. I can actually see where he's come onto the road. Just in front of us here. He came out of the bush right here onto the road right here. So he would have come from almost due north from Treehouse Dam where he came out on Spum Road, and his tracks come onto Rebecca's Road right here. And we're going to turn around and we're going to go back and see if he went up towards Impala Plains, or I think he might have crossed through because there was nothing on the junction up there. I think he would have made a shortcut through here onto Zoe's Road, which means that he would have headed up Zoe's Road and then eventually got to Impala Sandy Patch maybe, or Aubrey's Road. Exciting that we've still got his tracks to follow. And I just need to chat to Scott quickly. Scott, come in. You wanted me?
Yeah, I was just wondering updates on those tracks, Mark, so I can come give you a hand. Gorilla turned around at the last moment. I'm looking promising. I'm thinking we can try and help you.
Okay, sounds great. I've just picked up his tracks again on Rebecca's Road. He must have crossed through from Spum Road, past the hyena, then coming out onto Rebecca's, heading northwest on Rebecca's. I'm going to go and see if he comes out onto Zoe's. Where are you now?
What do you think outside? Sorry, mate, but I'll still follow the boundaries that we got about.
Okay, copy, thanks. I'll keep you posted. So given that he's come from the south, come up from the south and heading more or less northwest. My guess is that he would have crossed through onto Zoe's. So we're going to have a look. There were no tracks here other than hyena tracks. And we'll have a look. There's a big junction up ahead. Oh, wait, here are his tracks now. He must have left the road. He's back on the road here. Hyena tracks too. Just suddenly decided to run off with a whole family of warthog, and the mama and piglets are fine next to us, but he's taken off. Now I have to tell you that our young male leopard has come all the way here to Impala Plains, and as he got to the open area he left the road, and I was watching these warthogs. I wasn't sure if he left to the left or if he left to the right. Impala are having a good sparring session, so they're a little bit engrossed. The warthog are safe. They're out here in the open, and there's no way that a leopard is going to be able to get to one of these warthog. But I'm wondering if he isn't somewhere around the edge of this open area watching these impala. There's quite intense sparring going on. There was also a harrier hawk, African harrier hawk in the background. So a little bit of a dilemma. Do we go and look for the tracks leading away from the open area, or do we just sit and watch what's going on here for the time being? If he carried on going west, he would have crossed over into, there's that piglet now, big male warthog's running back the other way. But that's because there was a car on Triple M. He's obviously a very shy, big boar. Hiding away. Bachelor group of impala are all engaging, and that's possibly a target for a leopard because they get so busy with each other they don't see what's going on around them so much. What's interesting is you can see the two grooming each other in the foreground. They were sparring just a few seconds ago. They've stopped sparring and now they're doing a little bit of elo grooming. Very important, the sparring at this time of the year, because they've got to challenge dominant males for access to females, and fortunately for them they can practice their sparring and spend time feeding and build up their muscles and build up strength, whereas the ram that's in charge of the females will be losing a lot of muscle, losing strength, because he spends all his day chasing males away and mating with females and doesn't get time to look after himself. Okay, so I'm going to roll a little forward, have a look at this. No, we've got no gravity drive today. We've used it all up. Recharged it. I'm not getting anything. Now the composition that we have here are the two small piglets, which would have been born around December, so they're only about 6 months old. And their mom, who's this very big female, she's got a magnificent set of tusks. And you can also see as she's eating, she looks like she's maybe broken the lower left tusk. but her lower right tusk is quite solid. And then the other piglet off to the side, that's a daughter, probably going on 2 years old now, or maybe 18 months, maybe even 2.5 years old, but a daughter from a previous litter that sticks around to help out with the new litter. The big boar running again. He's just nervous, I think. The impala have left Impala Plains. They moved off, probably because it's starting to get warm. It's time for them to head into the bush for feeding. Something's not right here. Just managed to get final control on the radio there. Just got a tweet in from Diane. Thank you, Diane. Very interesting news saying that Kumale quarantine killed a warthog on Simbambili and that it was stolen by lion. Now, I've just seen a vehicle going by on Triple M. The Simbambili is directly, straight ahead of us across Triple M. And this is where his tracks have been heading. So I'm pretty sure that that is where our leopard is. And maybe one of the reasons why that big male warthog is so nervous like that, because maybe he heard the squealing. And evidently, Kumale was walking straight into Zimbabwe where there was a pride lion, and I wonder who. Maybe one of the Tsalala breakaways even. Maybe Birmingham. Don't know. I'm going to have to see if I can find out some other way. But that would be somewhere up ahead of us. And that's just in line with the direction that his tracks have been walking in northwest, in a northwesterly direction straight from Treehouse Dam. So I'm still going to see where his tracks crossed, and I'll probably be able to go and find them crossing Triple M as well, which is our western boundary. Interesting. Thanks for that news. Warthog squeal when they're getting caught. It's very difficult to keep them quiet because they squeal almost before they even get caught. They squeal in anticipation. If it was a male warthog, it was probably a pretty heavy fight for quarantine male to have caught a male warthog. This is what I'm led to believe. And that squealing probably is what attracted lion's attention. Now, this just sort of reflects on what we were saying earlier, question whether the leopards had not been in the area because the lion were here. Now, lion have very large territories, and within the lion's territory, you're going to find several leopards' territories. And leopard know that they live within the lion's territory, and obviously there are times when they can hear lion and they can avoid them, but there are also times when nature just puts them in the same place. It's unavoidable, maybe because they didn't know the lion were there. And this seems to be the case now with quarantine male. Found himself, after walking all the way from Little Gowrie, crossing Gowrie, Western Gowrie, or crossing Djuma the way he did, and finding himself on the sort of northwestern sector of his territory, the range that he covers, only to have his kill stolen by a pride lion there, even if he was trying to avoid the lion here. Bye-bye, Mrs. Pig and piglets. We'll see you later. We're going to just head up towards Sandy Patch.
you have the last tracks?
Last track's just on the eastern side of Impala Plains. I'm checking Sandy Patch south now, heading up to Sandy Patch to see if he comes out here. Otherwise, I'm going to have to check on Triple M.
Okay, copy.
Okay, copy. I just heard copy me. Didn't hear the beginning of that message. Georgie in Australia. I think I've got it. Unfortunately, it's breaking up a lot. I think Georgie was asking if the younger warthog that was with the mum, if she had her own babies, would she stay with her mother? Sometimes yes and sometimes no. We have seen warthog where the adult female has a litter and her daughter has a litter and they're all together. But generally not. I would say generally the young female, when she has her own litter, then becomes her own little matriarch, and she then looks after her own family. Sometimes not, though. We know that there's that family of warthog on Arethusa, on the airstrip at Arethusa, where there's 7 piglets. That piglets from the daughter and from the mom, they're almost the same age. And there are no leopard tracks here.
Elephants, and this is a small herd that we are getting to know. We saw them yesterday morning, and it's very distinctive because the trunk that you're looking at is distinctively shorter than it should be. It lacks the prehensile fingertip. She's lost the end of her trunk, this cow, and it's interesting. It's just a herd of 3 of them. It's probably 2 of her previous offspring, and although the young bull, the smallest of her calves, is nursing and trying to nurse, I think it might actually be nursing right now. It's quite old, and I'm surprised that she's allowing it to nurse. We also saw them yesterday afternoon, but there were no vehicles there. It was just the Djuma waterhole cam that alerted us to their presence. As I was saying, though, the youngster that is nursing is quite old. It looks to be about 2 years old, possibly a bit more than that. And he's been having some temper tantrums when his mother doesn't allow him to nurse. But she's given in this morning. Yesterday morning was quite different, and he was letting off the odd shriek. Expressing his frustration as to not being allowed to drink milk. And here he's trying again. Let's see what happens. You're too old now, buddy. The trunk is missing ever so slightly, a little piece off the end, which is a very useful part of their trunk. It allows them to pick up the smallest of things. They could even pick up a peanut with their prehensile fingertips. She lacks these. Morning. Hello. She is very close to us. We're just hoping to find some food nearby. This is an incredibly hard piece of wood that she's just broken off, but look at the texture of that skin. It's really beautiful in the morning sunlight. Marianne in Arkansas, good morning. Marianne's interested to know some behavior that she witnessed on a previous drive with the young elephant that lifted its trunk up towards the vehicle and smelt us, and then continued to put the trunk into its mouth. And she's wondering if by putting the trunk into its mouth it would be helping to taste or sample the smell that it picked up from us. And I think it was more of just a funny maneuver rather than helping to better process our smell. Their trunk is essentially just an extension of their nose. It's just a very long column of nostrils, really. And by just smelling the air, that would have picked up enough information for it to work out what it wanted to. And I think by putting its trunk in its mouth, it was just a display of sorts, and young elephants will sometimes put their trunk in their mouth for a lack of a better place to put it. I wonder why these three are separated from what they would normally be in a larger herd than this. Who knows what it could be? It isn't hugely uncommon, though, for animals that do live communally to occasionally break off and do their own thing. But it is interesting that it appears for almost the last 48 hours these three have been alone. I'm going to try and reposition the vehicle. It's quite thick vegetation in here, and I'm not sure how lucky we're going to be, but it's definitely worth a try. There we go. There he's putting his trunk into his mouth again, and it could just be a habit, I guess.
Perhaps a comfort thing.
Exactly, perhaps a pacifying effect, as Brian's just suggested. Just like humans sucking their thumb, a go-to maneuver when you're not sure what else to do. I always find it interesting how silently they can move through the vegetation, and also how they can disappear. They are huge animals, but can so quickly dissolve and blend into the environment that they live in, which certainly makes things interesting when you are on foot and next thing you know there's a wall of elephants in front of you. Now that it is beginning to heat up, they will start to flap their ears more readily. They pump liters and liters of blood through their ears every minute. And that's their cooling system. Those massive ears are not for hearing purposes, it's for cooling purposes. So it's an animal that's adapted with some really strange improvements. Its extended nose that it can use as an extra limb to help feed, and those gigantic ears that actually don't help hearing, but they in fact are the cooling system. Chris in Washington, good morning. Chris would like to know, what does elephant skin feel like? And as you can tell, just by the way it looks, it's quite rough in some sections, very deeply textured. But in certain parts of the body, I guess, in the armpits where there's a lot of friction and rubbing, it can be exceptionally smooth. So depending on where exactly you are feeling on an elephant, it will impact on the smoothness and the texture of the skin. I've only felt an elephant once, and that was at a rehabilitation center which rescued elephants from disturbed areas. And it was a beautiful young bull. He was about 25 years old. And it was really incredible to be able to touch and feel inside the mouth, feel the trunk, and get an understanding of how they feel. But that was only once off. And as you can see, the elephants have disappeared into some thick vegetation. We'll leave them to carry on searching for food. It's a never-ending quest for elephants, really. And we will continue. Well, no luck. But tracking is kind of a process of elimination a lot of the time. So by establishing that an animal did not move in one area, it kind of helps you close off that specific part of the reserve, and it allows us to head off and search a new area. Not short noises I heard there, but we can just stop and listen for a while. Susan, there's been some very interesting information on Karula in the last week or so. Basically, we got a report, and I think Monday or Tuesday, from one of the guides that he had seen her with suckle rings, nursing rings around her nipples, indicating that she would have had cubs. Now, nobody saw the cubs, and the only report that I got was that she was seen with suckling rings. The very next day, we got a report that she was mating with Tingana, a male leopard. Now, interestingly enough, we did get some feedback from one of our long-term viewers who remembered that on Karula's third litter, she did a very similar thing. She had given birth, but she was seen mating with a male leopard shortly afterwards. It was for a short period of time, and leopardess will sometimes do this to give men the false impression that they are actually the father of those cubs. Now, the reason why she'd want to do that is that would prevent that leopard from killing cubs that are not his own, which is what male leopards will do so that they can get their genes into the system. So it's one of actually the biggest killers of leopard cubs. It's other male leopard that did not father them. Now, what was different about her mating with Tingana this time, as opposed to the last time she was seen mating when she did actually have cubs, was that she continued to mate with Tingana for about 2 or 3 days, which means that she either didn't have cubs in the first place, or possibly lost the cubs very shortly after she gave birth to them, And leopard can almost immediately mate with males once they have lost their cubs, because their next step will be trying to raise the next litter, and they won't waste any time about that. So who knows, possibly it means that she's lost her last 2 litters that she's given birth to, and that's after having, I think, raised 5 or 6 litters successfully. So it looks like her luck may have turned. Anyway, time will tell. We nearly got to see her this morning, and that would have been great. We could have made some assumptions of our own. And even though we didn't, there's still a chance we could find her around Buffelshoek Dam this afternoon. So that's good prospects for this afternoon, and about as in-depth of an update as I can give you, Susan. But again, this is all going on what we've heard, not what we've actually seen. And I believe you've already seen one with Mark this morning. So 2 Cokie Franklin and 1 drive. I guess they filled up the slots of the 2 leopards that we were hoping at seeing at one stage. Karula was so close to us. I mean, we could see the vehicle there. And Mark was on steaming hot leopard tracks. So Brian and I thought, well, this is going to be a jackpot second half to the drive. We're going to be switching between 2 leopards, depending on which is performing the best. But in fact, it turns out they've evaded us.
2 Cokie Franklins, though.
2 Cokie Franklins, though, exactly. We probably see more leopard than Cokie Franklins, to be honest. So we're trying to get some equilibrium out here. Way. They are such pretty birds, the hornbills. This is a red-billed hornbill. It's the smallest hornbill we get out here. And like a lot of other animals this morning, it's enjoying basking in the morning sun. The evenings are quite chilly, but the days in winter are almost always sunny with blue skies. Just been taking the last few seconds to try and listen as intently as I can to the bush around us. There's a lot of different birds calling. Oh, and there goes the red-billed hornbill. And we are still in an area where this leopard that Mark has been tracking could pop out at any given stage. And listening can often be one of the greatest tools in finding leopard, because we rely on different animals to alarm call and lead us into where they could be moving. Didn't hear anything there though. Got a question through from Gig, and Gig's wondering if Karula has in fact lost her 2 litters, previous litters. Is she getting a bit too old for the job now. And no, I don't think she is. Leopard can be very unlucky when it comes to raising cubs. I know of a leopard that lived to about 8 years of old, so she died very young. The female can live up to 20 years of age. Anyway, this specific female attempted to raise 6 or 7 litters and did not manage to successfully raise one cub. She was eventually injured when she made a warthog kill and it sliced one of her front paws basically in half. And that injury she couldn't recover from, and she slowly withered away after having not raised one cub to adulthood. And interestingly enough, the main animal killing her cubs was male leopards. And at that stage, there was a lot of disruption amongst the male leopards, and there was new males coming, coming and going through her territory, which made life difficult for her because there was always different males that wanted to sire her cubs. And again, I just think it's been bad luck more than anything that Karula's lost definitely her last litter in December. What's happened now more recently, we're not too sure of exactly yet. But she's certainly got a few more years in her before she starts getting too old to be a good mother, I think. Okay, well, while Brian and myself continue searching for anything interesting for you guys, let's catch up with Mark and see how he's coming along. We'll see you later.
Well, welcome back. We're on Sandy Patch, heading up towards Sandy Patch. We just left Impala Plains. I reluctantly have had to give up on that leopard. I went back to where I last saw his tracks, and I was walking around trying to ascertain where he had gone from there. It's almost as though he walked down the middle of the road, and it's a nice sandy road. There's no grassy patch in the middle as there is here. And well, I know that I must have driven over one or two of his tracks, but there's a point where I just cannot find where he left the road, whether it was to the left or the right. Quite clearly, it's at some point around the edge of Impala Plains. He must have come out onto Impala Plains and actually stopped looking out onto the open area. There were impala there. Here comes Scott. There were impala there. And the warthog are grazing. The warthog are still quite busy. I'm looking now, there's some impala further back that I saw a minute ago. A second ago. I just wanted to see if they weren't maybe... Oh, they're feeding. They're doing fine. I'm going to play chicken.
Hello, Marcus.
Morning, Scott. Hello, Brian. So his track, just telling everybody, his tracks came Spam Road, down to the dam, back up to Philemon's cut line, cut through. We could see where he came out onto Rebecca's Road. Okay. Just above where the lion were, actually. Yeah. So it must have been after they left anyway. And then all the way up Rebecca's Road to the edge of Impala Plains. And if you go up from Impala Plains, you'll actually see where I drew my foot. That's the last track that I got of him. Couldn't find anything on Triple M except the leopard tracks that we saw yesterday when we turned in to go look for the Ellies on arrow through the...
Just as well you knew about those ones from yesterday.
Yeah, because they do look quite fresh on the edge, especially being Triple M, and you know how the cars drive up and down the edge of track differently. I haven't seen anything here. I did come up and down here a little bit. So he didn't come out onto this road. He didn't go out onto Triple M. There is a bachelor herd of impala just here on the northern edge of the open area. And then there's a warthog family on the southern end. So I don't know whether he's hiding out somewhere. Okay. And he's watching impala. There's also
some leopard tracks on the property.
Yes.
So good prospects for some time.
I don't know if you heard that, but evidently Diane said that Quarantine had been on Simbambili. Yeah. Killed a warthog there yesterday.
which is
was stolen by lion.
Yeah.
Because when I heard that, I thought, oh, well, maybe it's him, because he was coming up from Treehouse, and that's the straight line to Simbambili. But it's obviously, this must be Kanyuma then, if quarantine was already on Simbambili.
That sounds like it could be the case. But we're going to have to find it to make sure.
We are.
So good luck. We've only got a few more minutes.
See you later.
Cool, mate.
See you for breakfast.
Yes. Later.
So there you have it. And after driving around for 3 hours, it's strange that we've met up again. But Scott was going to be coming to help with these tracks, and unfortunately, well, there just doesn't seem to be any sign of him coming out onto this road. We'll see whether Scott came from Sandy Patch or whether he came down the power line. If he came from Sandy Patch, I'll head down the power line and get back towards Juma Access, Wetele Access Road. There is, despite the fact that there has been rain and there's a little bit of a flush of green in the grasses and the trees compared to when I left, it was looking rather dry, but there are still signs of winter and the leaves falling and the leaves on the ground. But great to be back this morning. A lot of tracking this morning and not too many results. Or am I being modest? No results from any of the tracking, to be honest. Or at least we got to see where the tracks left the property, and it was good to hear that the cats had been found further east. And pity that we didn't find them. But thanks also for all your patience with all the tracking that I was doing this morning. I was starting to get a bit excited with this leopard track, thinking that maybe we were going to catch up with him. And, well, our sunset safari this afternoon, starting at 3 o'clock Central African time, gives us another chance to follow up on things, and I hope you're going to join us for that. So from Viam and I, well, from myself, Mark, and Viam in the back on camera, we'll say goodbye to you for now, and I'll be seeing you this afternoon. I'll be seeing you for your morning, our evening, if you're in the northern hemisphere, the western side of the world. What do you see there? Digging. Warthog diggings. Bye everyone. See you later. Love you lots.
It's this morning's drive, watching this African Harrier hawk fluttering about, trying to catch and ride a hot thermal of air spiraling up off the earth as it does warm up today. As you can see, it's still flapping quite a lot, so not the most efficient flight, but that's because it is still cool, and you'll find a lot of the birds of prey will only start thinking about flying now that it is becoming warmer. They rely on the hot air thermals to float effortlessly and efficiently. We've seen the same type of bird digging into cavities of trees trying to pluck out potential prey, and that's how they hunt. So maybe it's looking for a tree with some potential cavities in which to search for some food. They'll pluck small chicks out of nests and reptiles taking refuge in logs. Well, it's been an exciting morning, but sadly a lot of the excitement has finished in disappointment because the leopards that we were hoping to see didn't pop up, but that's all part of the adventure, and we still did get to see some great other animals along the way, and it's always fun coming out and sharing whatever happens out here with you, the viewers. So thanks for signing in. Thanks to Brian on camera, good to be teamed up with you again, and to Nikki and Tara in Final Control, thanks very much. We'll leave you with a few last shots of the warthog as we say goodbye. And don't forget to tune in for the PM Safari. I'm feeling lucky we're going to find some leopard for you.